Howdy, howdy. In this video, I'm sharing 3 things I love about Wonders of the First. I'm going to give you 2 things I think need to be improved. I am unsatisfied about Wonders of the First. And I'm going to give you 1 thing that I absolutely hate. The reason I'm doing this video is because I really enjoy this game. And much like I appreciate the day when my wife looked at me and said, "Hey, you're getting a little big around the belly. You got to start working out." I appreciate when my parents would say, "Son, you're not pulling the grades that we know you can pull. You can do better." And I can appreciate when my coach said, "American Texan, you're too slow. You want to make varsity, you got to get your numbers up." Right? I can appreciate being challenged. I can appreciate in business and customers would give me feedback and say, "Look, we understand what you're trying to do, but this isn't working for us. We understand that communication is the best thing and what you want to be known for. However, you're taking too long to return our calls. You need to be answering our calls even at 11 o'clock at night." Right? I can appreciate when my employees, I don't even like calling them my employees, I like calling them my team. And they say, "Hey, I want to raise, right? Because I'm doing great work for you. You're doing great work with me, but I feel like I'm not getting adequate compensation." I can appreciate being challenged. And one of the things that I enjoy that's not part of my list is that the Wonders team is here. In fact, I even found it when I was doing research for this video. They appreciate being challenged. They will challenge fear at every decision point, balance boldness with common sense. And they embrace, look at this, they embrace a culture of learning, seeking feedback to refine our game and practices. They own their mistakes, and I can tell you they have in the past, and I have seen no doubt that if they make a mistake, they will own it and take full responsibility, which I respect. But they will learn from it and use to improve. So this is not a complaint video. This is just as I would complain with any of my Marvel and DC books where I say, "What are you guys doing here? You got a great idea and terrible execution. Why did you go with this story? Why did you make this turn?" Right? One of the biggest mistakes in Spider-Man. Why would you sacrifice your marriage for an 87-year-old woman? Was she 87 when Aunt May? In the comic books, Brand New Day, be ready, it might be coming in the movies. Peter Parker and Mary Jane sacrificed their marriage to give another day with Aunt May. Lady she was great grandma age. You didn't need to sacrifice your marriage for that old woman. But Marvel decided to get Peter divorced and make sure he never has a happy relationship again. One of the dumbest mistakes ever in the history of comic books and editorial and creative writing. That said, doesn't mean I hate Marvel. Doesn't mean I won't buy Marvel books. Some say that's a fault. I'm saying that when we love something, when we want something to improve, we don't neglect standing down from criticism, from feedback, as long as it's done in a way that's constructive. And this is not a complaint. This is not a roast. This is me sharing what I love about this game. And some of the things I love also include making it things that bother me. And one more thing here. I think we can all agree, if you're married, the things that you love the most about your spouse are also the things that drive you the most crazy. The thing I love about my spouse is that she is full of integrity. And man, she keeps me accountable when I'm falling short. She makes sure I knows about it and gets me to pick up the slack. One of the things I love about her is how beautiful and gorgeous she is. And it drives me crazy sometimes how long it takes her to get ready in the morning. So let's get into it. I'm going to share with you 3 things that I love about this game. Starting with number 1. And I say this often in the chat, and people are like, "Whoa, you just blew my mind." And I'm like, I thought this was obvious. But my favorite sport is baseball. I played more football, but my favorite sport is baseball. And the thing that I love about baseball is that the game is never over until it's over, right? Yogi Berra, you heard him saying, "It ain't over till it's over." And he said, "Well, of course it's not over until it's over." Look, in basketball and football, there is a point in which you are mathematically out. In fact, in football, if you are mathematically out, even though there's time on the clock, you literally give up. The offense literally takes a knee and runs out the clock. All right? In basketball, you may be close enough to where you can foul and try to get the ball back on a missed free throw, but there comes a point when you know there's not even enough time on the clock to do that. Even in soccer, there comes a time where there's so much time left on the clock, even with overage, you know you cannot physically come back. But in baseball, and in Wonders of the First, you are never out until the last play is over. I am a Houston Astros fan. American Texan. I am in America. I am in Texas. I grew up in Houston, and I'm a Houston Astros fan, thick and thin. And there was a game in which they played several years ago against the Orioles. In fact, let me pull it up. I think it was this game, the Astros against the Orioles. They came back in the 9th inning. They were losing. They had 6, 7, and the Orioles had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They were losing 7-9 going into the 9th inning, and they came back and scored 4 runs. Okay, if you don't know baseball, that basically means they came back and won a lot. In fact, look at the win probability all the way down into the 9th inning. 93, 94% chance that the Orioles were going to win, and the Astros came back scoring 4 runs in the 9th inning. And I think there was even 2 outs left. Diaz flied out to center, out 1. Bregman grounded into a fielder's choice, out 2. They were still down by 1. All Baltimore needed was a single out, and the Astros came back and scored 3 runs. And then Baltimore only scored 1, giving Houston the win. All that said, the game was mathematically over, but the game ain't over till it's over, until the final out is played. Okay, Wonders, thank you for sticking with me through that. Wonders is the same way. You get 7 realms. That's like 7 innings. And every realm, you get 3 actions. Now, unlike baseball, you get 3 outs, that's it. But in Wonders, you can increase your actions. You can increase your energy so you can do more with your actions. But also your opponent can take those actions away. But the point is that the game ain't over until it's over. It doesn't matter what happens the first 6 round. What matters is what happens and where the game is over at the end of the 7th round. Just like it doesn't matter how much you're losing. It doesn't matter until all the outs are done. That's who wins the game. And just like we've seen in many of the competitions here, if you go back and watch the replays of any tournaments that we've had, you go and look, and this mathematical probability here doesn't matter until you hit the very end of the game. And that's what I love about Wonders. You're not out until you're out. If you have a bad draw, the game ain't over. It's not like Magic where someone can just swing and hit you for 20 points of damage and kill you in turn 2 or 3, and the game's over. It ain't like Magic where we used to play with friends and we'd draw and we knew each other's decks so much we could say, hey, I got these cards. Did you get those cards? And they'd say no. And it's like, all right, game over. I win. Right? The game ain't over until it's over. And subcategory under this, you don't need the most powerful cards to win. You don't need so many mythics. In fact, I've seen games played in the Discord where we had pauper decks going against massive decks. Decks that were 100 to 200 DBS short. And still beating decks that were optimized to take full point advantage in the DBS. The DBS is the deck balance scoring, where we figure out how many cards or what cards you can put in the deck. And some players were putting super powerful ones, and some players were just putting the ones that they had on hand, and they were still winning. That's what I love about this game. Number 2 is the Eternal, which shout out Remains of Barnabas, one of my favorite cards, that these cards will remain for eternity, so to speak. They're not reprinting, but they are also never banning any cards. Cards will always remain legal. I played Marvel Snap for a long time. Probably, I want to say I gave up almost 2 years in, almost to the 2-year anniversary mark. And one thing that always peeved me is that you would get a deck going and it'd be super balanced, and you would have your favorite characters or your favorite deck put together real tuned in, and you really learned how to play it really well. And then they would totally change the power, change the way abilities worked, removed abilities, changed the order of operations, and the deck was entirely kaput. That doesn't happen here. There is no reprinting of cards where they say, you know what, Remains of Barnabas should really be 2 power, so we're going to reprint the Remains of Barnabas version 2 in the next set, in the Call of the Stone set, and there he'll have 2 power, and any Remains of Barnabas that has 1 power is no longer illegal in play. Or they change the ability of on round end, maybe it's on round start. That's more balanced. So we're going to change that, and all the ones that say on round end are now illegal. Never happening. They're not reprinting this card. They're not changing the card. It is in here for eternity. Eternal life comes with eternal servitude, like Remains of Barnabas says. So I absolutely love, which by the way, we have not seen the stone foil. I just realized. We've seen the alt art stone foil. Shout out Sugar Bear that has the alt art stone foil, but I don't think we've seen the stone foil of Barnabas Prime. Anyways, all these cards are not bannable. Now, how do you make sure that the game is balanced as the game goes on? Now, there is a DBS score, in which case you build a deck, and every card has a point value, and your deck has to be under a certain point value, usually 750, 1,000, or 1,250. And if a card becomes very powerful or super meta heavy, they increase the DBS score. Now, that doesn't ban the card. It doesn't change how the card is used. It makes the card a little bit heavier in your deck, so you have to make modifications to the deck. Take out some other higher point cards and put in some lower point cards, or make some modifications of maybe how you're using that card with other cards. So you can't use it with certain other cards because then the points get too heavy. But you know what? You can just go play in a heavier bracket. Go play in the 1250 bracket, right? So cards are always legal, and I love this. Because when I open a pack and it has a card that I'm like, oh, like I opened a pack in a video, my mail day video, and it had a faith card, and I don't play faith. I just haven't. It hasn't spoken to me as a man of faith. The faith ability in these cards has not spoken to me. But I know that even though it's not popular right now, and even though I don't want to use it right now, 10 years down the road, I could find a deck where maybe I could use this, and this card that I opened is still usable. It's still valuable. It's still valid. And even though I may not want this card now, and maybe I don't want it in the future, other people will still want it. It's not going to go from $30 value to 30-cent value because it's no longer tournament legal. These cards are always going to be tournament legal. And I love that. Number 3 thing that I love, and this is the most important one, I love the community. Our community is amazing. And I did some Marvel card collecting, and that was a great community, and everyone always said the Marvel card collection community is the best. Wonders is putting it to the test. There are people that are unfortunately going through life circumstances, and instead of trying to drag them through the mud to get their cards for the cheapest as possible, we have community members coming together and saying, I will get you what you need. We had a donation stream to help pay for the medical bills of a community member's wife. We had someone have a baby, and a community member who owned one of the art proofs had printed up baby bibs. This is a wonderful community. I know some people in here who've been praying for each other, who have been patient with each other. We just have an amazing community. And I consider it a blessing to be a part of the community. So those are the 3 things that I love. I love the gameplay, the 7-realm gameplay. I love that cards are always legal. And, of course, I love the group of people. You know, I always said, you know, I used to hate when I worked in IT. I worked in a professional IT job, and I hated it. But the only thing that got me up in the morning without just miserably grumbling, dragging my feet was the people that I was working with. I had a fantastic staff. I had a great boss. And I had a great boss's boss. I had a great director. And even though I hated putting in the work and answering phone calls and living the It Crowd TV show, that was me. My team, my coworkers really made the job a lot easier. And so as great as this game is, it's the community that puts it over the top. Now, a few things that I don't like or I don't care for. Number 1, I wish we had, and I don't even see it as things that I don't like. I see it as things that I want to improve. I want to see an improved roadmap. And there's very little that can be done here. So my complaint can only reach so far. It's kind of like my son saying, hey, I want to eat an airplane for dinner. Like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to give you an airplane for dinner. You can't eat your toy Hot Wheels airplane. Okay? Well, I can sit here and I can say, you know what? I want to see a better roadmap. The game's only been out for 6 months, right? We just got out of the driveway. What more do you want? Would I like to see a roadmap? Yes. I would like a little bit more clarity than this is coming end of Q4. I would like to see a little bit more clarity than, you know, we've sent the product to distributors and now it's up to a Target or an LGS to order it and stock it. Okay. That doesn't happen with other trading card games. When Magic says a set's coming out, the set is out on that day, right? On digital platforms, when someone says there's an update coming, there's an update coming that day. And I don't know what can be fixed, or I don't know if it can be fixed or improved upon. And it's probably just growing pains. because you're working with a new publisher. You're working with a new printer. You're working with a new team. Literally, you did one set together. Now you got to figure out how you do expansion sets. And I imagine the process of working on an expansion set is a little bit different than working on the initial set. Because the initial set, you had 7 to 10 years to work on. The expansion set, you've had maybe 9 months, 1 year, totally different. Okay? So I totally get that. But I would love to see a little bit better of a roadmap. Because I think we've gotten to the point now in a world of crowdfunding and kickstarting and pre-ordering that people kind of understand when you say, oh yeah, we'll ship this end of by Q4. Everyone knows you're going to do it by like December 20th, right? No one ever says, oh we're going to ship it Q2. And it's like, oh yeah, great. It's coming April. No, that's never what it means. It always means the end. There's always some wiggle room. That's just the way that communications kind of goes. So I totally understand that. But what I would like to see is a little bit better of, hey, look, here's where printing is going to stop for all the first edition cards. Here's where they get shipped to the distributors. Here's the first tournament for that is going to be. Here's where the first opening is going to be. And again, I know that's a tall order. I know that's something that's like, it's just not in the cards right now. And I totally understand. It is something, though, that I would like to see. Another thing I would like to see, and this one's a little bit more tangible, and people can disagree with me. People have. And I totally get it. I get where they're coming from. I still disagree. I think we need to see player packs into player starter sets. Because, and I don't think the team could have seen this coming. I really don't. I think this is something that you have in hindsight and you just couldn't predict it. A 2-player starter set comes with 2 collector packs, which are very different from the player packs. And then the 2-player starter decks and the playmat, the stones. Look, you want to see what everything comes in this 2-player starter set? I have a video linked up in the top corner. The problem is that the market value for those collector booster packs equal, just those 2 packs, equal what the 2-player starter set costs. In fact, sometimes it's a little bit cheaper because to get 1 pack, it's between $15 and $20 after market. And so a lot of folks were just buying out the starter sets because they were just looking for the packs, and then they just list the starter decks on eBay or other secondary markets, or preferably they're just giving them away. Now the problem with that is you buy the starter set with the packs, you're taking the starter sets out of the environment. And I understand when people say, oh, well, you can just give the packs away and now we got more packs out there in the wild. I understand that. I think that's a good side effect. The problem is that this is marketed as the 2-player starter set. 2 people, a husband and a wife, a dad and his daughter, 2 friends, are supposed to buy these boxes, not collectors. These are not collector booster packs that come with decks. And it gets a little frustrating because the people that this is actually marketed to are not the ones buying it. It kind of reminds me a little bit. This is a little bit of a crude illustration. It's kind of like in the TV show. It was on Showtime. Was it Weeds with was it Nancy Kerrigan? Was that her name? Anyways, the suburban mom that ended up dealing drugs to pay for something. I don't know. This show came out so long ago. I think it was called Weeds. And she got in with a gang, and the gang saw her Prius and was like, oh, the Prius is so quiet. Yes. She's like, yeah, if you drive it under 10 miles per hour, you know, it just runs on electricity. It's quiet. And they're like, oh, that's great for sneaking up on people and, you know, blah, blah kind of thing. And it's like, that's not what Prius made the card for. But they were calling it out and, you know, abusing what the technology did. Crude illustration. So the thing is, though, this is marketed as a 2-player set. This is supposed to go to brand new players. Because now I know a lot of collectors have a bunch of stuff listed on eBay that are just these decks. And the people that see these decks that want to play the game, now you're selling them the decks, but now they can't have the pack opening experience because you took the packs out. And again, I understand wanting to include collector packs because there's some pretty big hits in there. It could be fun opening. But collectors and people that want to, you know, chasers, they want those packs. And those packs were easy to get because they didn't have to go to Whatnot or eBay and deal with shipping. They just go to the local Target. And they buy out the supply, and then they try to give the starter decks away, but people just don't, no one's just looking around and saying like, you know, oh, I want half the experience of a new player starter set. So I think that I would like to see this improved with player packs in the 2-player starter set. Now, maybe you have a 2-player collector starter set and a 2-player player set. Again, this is a hindsight. This is an hindsight insight. This is something I don't think they could have predicted down the road. I don't think they intended it to be this way. And I think some of what players are saying, like, oh, yeah, well, I bought a bunch of them, but I'm giving the decks away. Like, again, that's not the purpose of this box. The purpose of this box is to give to people that are brand new to the game, to give them both the play experience and the pack opening experience. And again, you are free to disagree with me on that, okay? Because I can see your side. I just disagree that it's not the right way to go about it. Okay. So that is another thing that I would like to see improved. So the improvements I would love to see is a little bit more of a definitive roadmap, which being a young company, I've been a young company, I'm building a second business now, and it's hard to do a roadmap. Okay. I totally get it. Okay. But it's still something I want to see improved. And then also the 2-player starter sets, I want to see player packs in those, or a different SKU, one for collectors and one for players. Now, the last thing that I hate about Wonders of the First, and I don't like using the word hate, because there are very few things in life that you should hate. I hate that there are so few people that play this game. This game is so much fun, and it is a pleasure to sit down and play this game, and you can play the same deck over and over again and get different results. And I hate that I don't know more people that play this game. I hate that I go to my LGS literally across the street from me, and I just can't find anyone that plays the game. And I would love to teach it. I just don't have that bandwidth, right? I'm doing videos. That's my calling right now with this game. I can't do learn to plays. God bless the people that are doing that. And again, that's nothing that I can change. That's just, a new product comes out. The market has to build up around it. Well, the market has to be tested, and then the player base has to grow. And I'm like so ready to be there right now. I want it now. I don't want to wait. And that's just something that time, has to do, right? It's just like when you go on a diet. In case you guys don't know, I'm a simple man. I understand a lot of things, and I explain a lot of things using illustrations. It sucks dieting. Dieting sucks. And when you wake up after day 3 and you're miserable, you got sugar craving headaches, you got caffeine headaches, you're sore, the DOMS is setting in. The delayed onset muscle soreness, you're tired of eating all this protein and you just want a piece of cake. And you look at the scale and you're like, I've only lost 0.1 pounds. I've only lost 2 ounces after all this hell. I want it now. Right? You get upset. It's like, I haven't lost 20 pounds. It's only been 20 hours. Like we get it. We don't. This is a delayed gratification. It's like finding the best pizza joint. And you go run and tell everyone, and you're like, oh, this is so good. And they're like, do they have stuffed crust pizza? Do they have $5 Little Caesars? Do they have crazy bread? And it's like, no, it's totally different. It's so much better. They use handmade ingredients. They even use whatever, right? It reminds me of when I moved into a neighborhood, and my neighbors recommended a pizza place, and the pizza delivery driver came and told me, he was like, oh yeah, I was like, this is our first time ordering, and he said, oh, you're gonna love this because everything is homemade. We make everything from scratch, even our tomato sauce. He's like, the only thing in our restaurant that comes out of a can is the olives. And I'm like, that's fine because I don't like olives, right? And olives are kind of pickled, right? They should come in a can. And so like I go and tell people about this, and they're like, oh yeah, but I like my thing, right? And that's fine. You like what you like. Right? You want to keep playing Magic the Gathering, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, that's fine. More power to you. But I want more people to play this game. I wish more people would get to know it. And I think if we do get the better roadmap, if we do get a more a different way of doing those starter sets so that people aren't just buying them and then trying to get rid of the decks like it's some kind of liability. If we can just maintain consistency, I would love to be to the point where it's like, you know what, like Magic. Like I know if I go to the LGS on this day, people will be there playing that game. I know that if I show this game to my friends, they can go online and buy their own packs at will or own decks at will and not have to shop the secondary market. Because that's just incredibly awkward. It's incredibly awkward when I tell a friend about or a colleague about the game. It's like telling someone about a restaurant, how great it is, how much you love eating there, and they call to make a reservation, and there are no seats available for 3 to 6 months. It's like, how am I supposed to enjoy this restaurant I heard so many good things about? And they're not going to wait for 3 to 6 months. at the same time, it's also like me telling a friend, like, hey, you know, I really enjoy this game. I really enjoy this restaurant. And I paid, I don't know, $30 for my meal. Oh, sounds great. So now they go to the restaurant, look at the menu, and guess what? That same meal's $90 to $100. And that's kind of where we are with this game, because the secondary market, of course, is going to be more expensive than buying up front. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just what is. But what is a bad thing to me is that it's just real hard to get into the game right now. And it's a growing pain. It's delayed onset and muscle soreness. We've got such a good thing on our hands, we can't make enough of it fast enough. It's that old saying of there was a man who made bricks at home, and they were so much better quality. He could sell them, and people wanted more. And so he had to hire people to help him make his bricks. But for every person he hired, the brick quality got less and less because he had less control over it. They weren't taking the same kind of care. They weren't doing the same things every time this man was doing, who invented this brick making process, until eventually his product became just as poor as the commercialized bricks out in the community. And so I understand that, hey, we've got to take our time. We've got to make sure everything is properly trained. We got to make sure everything is properly printed. We've got to make sure all the SOPs are in place before we really grow this thing. Because if you go too fast, we've seen this with restaurants. If you grow too fast, too aggressive, too quick, right? You ever hear the adage, the second restaurant in town is never as good as the first? It's because they didn't have the right quality control. And I think this team knows that. And they're going to take their time. They're going to take those punches. They're going to take this feedback and say, you know what? This makes me more powerful. And I appreciate that, and I love that, and that's why I think Wonders of the First is going to go places. Is it going to be bigger than Magic? I don't think it's going to be in the same category as Magic. I don't think it's a competition. I just don't. I don't see it that way. I don't see that for every player Wonders of the First gains, Magic loses a player. Lorcana loses a player. I don't see it that way. Because guess what? Since 2006, I have not been a Magic the Gathering customer. Sometimes I look and ogle at it. I see the deck box packs at Costco, and I'm like, oh, that would be fun. Lord of the Rings Magic, that could be cool. My daughter might like that. But when I came on Wonders of the First, Magic didn't lose a player. Pokemon didn't lose a player. Even comic books didn't lose a reader, right? No one lost anything when I came in, and that's when you start a business, you realize that you're not necessarily in competition. It's not a zero-sum game. Wealth is not a zero-sum game. Business growth and game growth is not a zero-sum game. And so when people are like, oh, this is going to dominate Magic, it's going to be a Magic killer, I don't think so. The same way that Android was never an iPhone killer. Guess what? There's more Androids out there than iPhones. Totally different markets. And I think in this illustration, Magic is the Android and Wonders of the First is the iPhone. And I'm okay with that. And so I appreciate what Wonders of the First is doing. I appreciate you for watching this video and for smashing that subscribe button. Or if you're more of the gentle type, gently click that subscribe button down below. And sticking with me through this. I think this is a fantastic game. In fact, after I record this video, I think we will play a game while it's rendering down. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for being, if you're a part of this awesome community, I appreciate you. I'm so glad you're part of the community. And what do you love about Wonders of the First? I'm going to ask that because I don't have to ask what you hate about Wonders of the First. People that don't like Wonders of the First will happily tell you, right? It's like CrossFit and vegetarians. You don't have to ask them. They're going to tell you. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Adios.